Welcome to That Digital Take. I'm your host, Torri Webster. I'm back. It's about time I had my own show again. I'm your host, Torri Webster. Guys, I am so excited for this. This has been my brainchild for so long. I've wanted to bring you behind the scenes into my lifestyle. I feel like I give as much as I can on social when it comes to curated storytelling. But my challenge at the beginning of 2024 was to show up online in a different way this year. And this is a part of this. So I'll give you some backstory. Okay, so my life as a creator and my life as an influencer, a lot of it is edited. A lot of it is curated. And we're going to chat about this in the podcast. I'm going to bring you behind the scenes and tell you all about what's going on. But the thing is, I wanted to be able to show up in a more authentic way for you guys, my community. And when people meet me in real life, they say, "Oh, Torri, you're so zesty. You have such an outgoing personality. You have so much information to share about the industry." I don't really feel like you do that in your storytelling online. And I'm like, you're right. And that's not on purpose. It's honestly because I've not had the platform or the committed time to bring it all to life. So now I've officially launched, and that's what this podcast is really going to be about. I want to be able to show you my true personality and show you what it's like to be a creator. And ultimately, and number one, I want to create value for you guys. I want you to be able to come to this podcast and learn. I want you to learn about the industry. I want you to, have questions, seek advice. And I'm going to break down kind of what we're going to get into. So I'm going to have weekly episodes. You're going to be able to tune in once a week. I'm going to keep it nice and short and condensed. All these episodes will be under 30 minutes for the most part. I don't want to be overindulgent. I just want to give you guys the value. So the idea is that each week I'll kind of, give you a weekly recap. So we can sit down and kind of chat about what's gone on in my life. Did I just come back from a press trip? Am I working with a cool new brand? Did I have a nightmare brand experience? What are some of the awesome things going on behind the scenes, or maybe shitty things behind the scenes that I can bring you guys up to speed on? That'll be part one of each episode. Heading into part two, we can then tackle a topic together. So you can write in, you can tell me what kind of topics you want to learn about. But to kick it off, I'm really going to be tackling those hard-hitting influencer 101 topics. We can chat about media kits. We can chat about how do you create a rate as an influencer. We can chat about, what is it like to actually work with a brand? And I want to dive into all those topics with you guys weekly and kind of break it down. So we'll have one topic to focus on each week. Then we're going to finish off each episode with some questions from you guys. So I want to chat with you, have that community engagement, and really touch base. I want this to be a place where you can seek advice, seek value, and learn about the industry. Now, I will say, I want this podcast to be for anyone. This is not a podcast just for people that want to become an influencer. This could be for people that just are intrigued about the creative industries. Maybe they're interested in the marketing side of things. Maybe you're a corporate business and you're like, I don't know how the hell to work with an influencer. Great, tune in. We can chat about it and how to actually make a partnership make sense. So this podcast truly is for everyone. I want the door to be open, and I want all the questions. So feel free to DM me and we can kind of tackle those questions as they come. Okay, so for today's episodes, we're going to keep it a little bit evergreen because I don't want to chat topically yet. I want to make sure you guys know what these episodes are going to be about. So I feel like we've got to go back to the beginning. I've got to give you some credentials on why I am able to talk about my life as a creator. So for some backstory, I've been in the industry for 10 years. I started as a child actor. Some of you may know that, or you may have tuned into my show back in the OG years. And that's where I started. I started my humble beginnings on camera, which is why still today, camera me collab. It's my comfortable place. I really do love my life in front of the camera. So I feel like that job set me up for the job that I have now. But a lot of the things that went down along the way were a bit accidental and also just baseline lucky. And I feel like that's worth talking about because when I got into this world 10 years ago and I started creating content on Instagram, I had no intention of necessarily monetizing this or becoming an influencer per se. That job obviously didn't exist. I have a job that did not exist 15 years ago, which is so weird to say. And also why I think it's worth talking about, because people don't understand this industry because it is so new and like we don't have a ton of information. Okay, so let's go back. So at the very beginning, I started as a child actor. Then I went to school for marketing and business. I went to Ryerson, which is now TMU, the rebrand for them. Super interesting. But anyways, I digress. So I went to Ryerson and I studied creative industries, which was super fun. And it was a perfect program for me because it basically set me up to monetize art. That was like the thesis of the program. Like, how do you make money in the creative industries, which famously, like, artists don't always know how to make money. We're going to chat about that. So the program really set me up for success. Instagram was blossoming at the same time. So I had come off a TV show. Instagram was blossoming. It was just a lucky storm. So I now have this public facing audience, and it was the blogger era. So we have people that are typing about their lives online and like telling their stories through writing. And I kind of knew that was not my calling. Love English, love to write a script, but I'm just more off the cuff. Like, I want to be chatting to a camera. So I leaned away from the blogger era, but I leaned into the Instagram era, which was actually the right thing to do. Like, now looking back, that was an amazing move. And so from 2014 onward, I was able to work with brands, which is actually crazy when you think about the Canadian market at that time. Like, one of my first brand partners was Scotia Bank. Shocking. Like, let's talk about that. How did a bank in 2014 have the wherewithal to activate influencer marketing? Fabulous. Still blown away by that. And they had such a modern approach. They said to me, let's do a long-term partnership. Let's build out like a big cadence of content. And looking back, I'm like, how was that the humble beginnings of Canadian influencer marketing? But that was my first experience. And when that happened and I got my first checks, I was like, oh my God, I think I can make money doing this. And obviously at the time I was running to Gracie O'Malley's, the Irish bar on Adelaide, to go spend all of that money and take shots and buy shots for the bar, which, like, again, fabulous for the times. But that being said, I was just shocked that I could actually make money doing this. So I then was like, okay, this is interesting. Things got weird after that. Like, shit got weird. It was like underground PayPal deals for a long time from like US companies, like not in an illegal way, but it was just weird. Like, it was like the Canadian market then slowed down. Like, we weren't fully caught up. Like, there was no brands activating the same way that they were in LA. They weren't like working with influencers per se. This was now like 2015, 2016. So all that to say, I've really seen the industry go through so many versions of itself, which is in itself really kind of intriguing. And as a creative, it's also been interesting and challenging to stay up to date with what's cool, what's trending, what's the in thing to do. And in the pandemic, obviously, I had a full 180 and started a TikTok channel from zero. And that was a great challenge too, because I had come off of basically only monetizing my Instagram channel. And, you know, you have a little bit of fear when you have to start a brand new social channel. You're like, but do you really love me? Like, are you really going to come to a new platform to follow me? The reality was yes. Although the storytelling approach was so different on TikTok. Like, I had to find a new version of myself that was going to show up online for TikTok. And so anyways, the same is now going to be true for the podcast. Now this is a new journey for us. We're going to get to know each other a little bit better. This is more intimate. I get to really have one-on-one conversations with you guys. And I mean it when I say, like, selfishly, I love that I'm doing this show on my own. As you may know, I previously had a podcast with one of my best friends, Jacqueline. Shout out. Loved our time together. But like, I laugh. And this is also worth noting, like, as a creator, we honestly shit the bed so hard. Like, the audio was so bad. How do you have a podcast with the worst audio on earth? But like, so funny. And that's a part of the journey, right? Like, nothing is ever going to be perfect. And you have to know that it's taken me 10 years to be able to sit now in front of you looking all high production qual. But that's because it's a journey, right? Like, there's pivots along the way, and this industry kind of forces you to be that way. So, okay, let's chat about the previous podcast for a second. That was so fun to create, and we honestly had a blast doing it together. It is what made it last as long as it did, because we had each other, and it was so fun to just like, basically, it was called Potty Talk. It was the podcast where we were like shit talking ourselves. Here's what I learned, though, about doing a podcast like that, and now what will be different with this one. Really touching on topics that will ultimately be giving you something to take away and think about and create a dialogue about, versus the previous podcast. Let's be honest, like, we were just two best friends being shitheads. Like, that is the honest truth. So now this approach is going to be a lot more educational. I want that for you guys. But I learned so much. And you know what's funny is we did all of the editing ourselves. We actually did everything ourselves. It was technically like under the arm of Bell Media because we were shooting in their studio, and it was like a fishbowl studio, and people would like walk by as we were filming. And there were days where like famous people would like be in the Bell Media studio, like walking by, like Harry Styles once like walked by. Like there was just like all of the, oh no, it wasn't Harry. It was the other man. One of the One Direction men. That's not my niche, so I can't speak on that, but there was a lot of like famous people that would roll through. Anyways, all that to say, we had no one helping us actually like on the ground with like the production side of things. So our studio looked A1. Like we couldn't have been more professional. But then our audio and the editing and all of the nightmares behind the scenes was like so chaotic and terrible. And let's be honest, like I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at. And that's part of being an influencer. Like you need to know your strengths and you need to know your weaknesses. Guess what my weaknesses are? Audio. So that's why I'm not relying on myself to curate the audio for this podcast, which is why it sounds amazing in your ears. Okay, so I also want to introduce you guys to this new studio. I've talked about my old beautiful studio, but this one is far more fabulous. And what I really want to point out is my very niche and very unique little settings behind me. Everything has been set up and brought in from my own personal condo, which I think is just a nice touch because I just want it to feel super homey and comfortable and chic in here. So we have some like custom art. We obviously have the 1942 just in case I start to lose my fucking mind and I need to take a shot. Haha. So we'll see about that if I ever dive into like an after dark version. Huh? Hell yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm so not used to having my producer in my ear. Wait, this is so funny too. I should tell you guys this. So I have like a ear, I don't even know what you'd call this, earpiece. I've got an earpiece. I've got an in-ear. And this is so interesting. Like I didn't have this when I made my last podcast, but it's so valuable because he's in the studio doing the behind the scenes work and clipping things together. And he can give me tips along the way. Like if my hair starts to look like shit, or like if things start to go awry, or if I start to lose the plot, then he's going to be like, Torri, come on, please, like, let's try again. So these are just the ins and outs of production that I think is really interesting for people to know. So anyways, back to my 1942, brought that from home. I also have a golden snitch. Let's not lie to ourselves. I am a Harry Potter stan forever. Like anytime it rains, I'm like, what are we doing? We're watching Harry Potter, obviously. So yeah, I had to bring my snitch. That was a gift from my boyfriend. So kind. What else do I got over here? I've got my Santal candle. If you know, you know. That's just a must. It's also massive and it's also almost done. So it was a great excuse to get it out of my house, if I'm being honest. And yeah, everything is just customized. We've got my little Porsche hat, all the good things. So this is the fabulous studio. You're going to see it in here every week. This is where I'm going to be filming each episode. And if you think you have some ideas of how I can customize it further, let me know. I will be taking recommendations. And maybe I need like a good coffee mug if anyone has a reco on that as well. I'm a coffee addict. It's a real thing. Yeah. So anyways, all that to be said, so excited for you guys to see the new studio and the behind the scenes. And I can actually give you more insight into the behind the scenes as things go on. Like if you guys have questions about what cameras I'm using or like how we actually like bring this to life, like that's something that we can absolutely do an episode on as well. Like podcast production can be one of the topics we cover in a future episode. So we're going to dive into kind of all of those topics and the ins and outs, and kind of break it all down and hopefully give some insight into some people jumping into the industry that want to learn more about influencer marketing. But also, and I really do mean this, I want to talk to those corporate baddies. Like I want to understand what's in your mind when you're coming up with your campaigns, because sometimes I receive briefs and I receive information that is like, I'm like, have you ever been on TikTok? Like, have you ever actually scrolled the platform? Or do you just want to throw money at a problem? So like these are the things I need to get off my chest. And we're going to chat about all of that. So, okay, so I've kind of given you the behind the scenes of how I got to where I am today and kind of the updates on why I'm here today. The last thing that I will chat about today is, what is the actual job of an influencer? And I will challenge the word influencer myself. Like, I understand that there's a negative connotation associated to the word influencer. I'm curious why the consumer feels that way. I personally love following people and being inspired by people, whether that's through their art or through their product recommendations or through their vlogs. It's something that I get a lot of joy out of on the back end. And maybe I'm spoiled because I'm seeing the industry from the other side. So like I have the utmost respect for creators because I maybe understand what it's like to like put yourself on the line and, I really mean it. Like a lens in front of me, the glass in front of me is my job. Like, yes, I get the community online, but so much of this job is so isolated. Like you have to understand that like what we do is a camera, a tripod, and a dream. So like I have the utmost respect for creators. And when people say, oh, I hate the word influencer, like I'm a content creator, like sure, yeah, I think you could be both. Like I think some people are true influencers if you're following someone because you are inspired by their life, you find it aspirational, you're like stoked on like what they're working on. Like yeah, they're influencing you to go after a certain lifestyle. Amazing. Also, I like the term content creator, which is what encompasses our job, right? Like today I'm lucky I have the fabulous James with me behind the scenes who's helping me cut this podcast and is working with me to bring this to life. But on a regular day, like if I'm just sitting and shooting a TikTok, it's literally me as producer, editor, stylist, hair, makeup, wardrobe, like the list of jobs, director, script writer, manager, like the amount of hats that we have to wear in order to make the content feel so seamless is what makes people disrespect our job because they think it's so easy. They're like, oh, you're an influencer. I'm like, yeah, okay, so you try. You go, you edit, you like direct, you write the script. Like, and that's the thing. I don't mean to like be so negative because it's not negative. It's more just like challenging the industry in that way. Like, I'm just curious why that's always been the perspective of the consumer. But I also want to open the dialogue. Like, I'm curious about feedback on that. Like, do you prefer if people use the word content creator? Do you prefer if people use the word influencer? Do you think the word influencer should just die? Like, are we going to be like, we're in this this anti-influencer, de-influencing era? And to some extent, I get that. There's a lot of product pushing in this industry. There's a lot of selling in this industry. I can appreciate that that's a big part of the job, but you're also reaping the benefits of all the product recommendations, of learning, of the value adds of what these platforms are giving you. Like the knowledge I've learned on YouTube, on TikTok, I tried to pick a lock. That's a story for a different day, but I tried to pick a lock when I was in LA. We were just trying to get into one of our Airbnbs and we got locked out. Literally, TikTok taught me how to pick a lock. Like, not saying that's like valuable, but like, in some forms, yes. And so I'm just like, that's fabulous. The fact that I can watch a video and learn something within 5 minutes and then put it to use, it's uncanny. Like and again, I know I'm maybe sounding repetitive, but it's like, I just have the utmost respect for people online putting themselves out there and going through the journey of, stripping away the filters and stripping away all the like bullshit and just kind of like showing up as themselves. Like there's some awesome creators out there. Let's talk about Alex Earl for a second. I cannot believe this woman's content output. The amount of content and quality content, I may add, that she is able to put out in a week is mind-blowing. Now, I don't know if she's got editors behind the scenes. Obviously, she has a production team helping with her podcast, which is also super high quality and like also feels relatable and all of those good things. But I'm talking like TikToks alone, short form video alone. If she's putting out 2 to 3 videos a day, I don't think people understand what that takes out of someone. Like, you're basically running around with a camera on your face all day long. So I just kind of challenge everyone to look at it from a different perspective and kind of maybe see the work that's going on behind the scenes. And that's what this podcast is going to be all about. We're going to be chatting about all things pop culture, all things related to marketing, influencer marketing, media, all that jazz. You can write in, ask me any pieces of advice. I want to keep it super open. I don't want it to feel, corporate at all. I don't want it to feel forced at all. I really want you guys to feel like you're getting my full version of my zesty personality, because I haven't been able to show it to you in 1-minute TikTok videos. Long form is where it's at. I'm serious. I've never done long form content like alone necessarily, because I never had a YouTube channel, but I just already know like this is going to make the dream come true. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in to episode 1. I can't wait to bring you next week's episode. I will see you soon. Please DM me with any feedback. And I am so excited to go on this, hopefully, very long, fruitful journey with you. See you next time. Love you. Mean it. Bye.